Hello and welcome to today's reflection. I'm Julie Butcher, curate at Holy Trinity and St Michael and All Angels. We're continuing our journey through the Acts of the Apostles, and today Stephen witnesses to Jesus and begins by retelling God's story. I don't know about you, but I love a good story. As many of you know, I used to be a primary school teacher, and my favourite part of the school day was gathering the children together on the carpet at the end of the day. I felt like a magician through the story. I could hold them in my power. So, however boisterous they might have been, or even a bit naughty, by the time it was story time, they were with me. With the older children, I loved those longer novels. We'd read a little bit each day, and I'd try and leave it at a cliffhanger. And then the next day we'd recap and do that. What do you think is going to happen next? And they never seemed to tire of it. My daughter, she always loved me to make up a story when she was little, and I expect she loved them because she was always a character in them. I think we all love us to be part of a story, don't we? We love a story if we're in it. So maybe that's why I've been enjoying Bishop John's challenge to read the whole Bible this summer, and the way we've been tackling it on Sundays in church. We've been winding our way through the Old Testament, finding all about those different kinds of stories as we go. Well, spoiler alert, this Sunday, or a week on Sunday, if you're following us online, we arrive at Jesus. And that's a real rags to riches type of story. And that's where Stephen was leading as he began to tell the story to the High Council in today's reading in Acts. So here it is, Acts chapter 7, verses 1 to 16. Then the high priests asked him, "Are these things so?" And Stephen replied, "Brothers and fathers, listen to me. The God of glory appeared to our ancestor Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran, and said to him, 'Leave your country and your relatives and go to the land that I will show you.' Then he left the country of the Chaldeans and settled in Haran. After his father died, God had him move from there to this country in which you are now living. He did not give him any of it as a heritage, not even a foot's length, but promised to give it to him as his possession and to his descendants after him, even though he had no child. God spoke in these terms, that his descendants would be resident aliens in a country belonging to others, who would enslave them and mistreat them during 400 years. But I will judge the people whom they serve, said God, and after that they shall come out and worship me in this place. Then he gave them the covenant of circumcision, and so Abraham became the father of Isaac and circumcised him on the 8th day. And Isaac did likewise to Jacob, and Jacob to the 12 patriarchs. The patriarchs, jealous of Joseph, sold him into Egypt, but God was with him and rescued him from all his afflictions and enabled him to win favor and to show wisdom when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who appointed him ruler over Egypt and over all his household. Now there came a famine throughout Egypt and Canaan, and great suffering, and our ancestors could find no food. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent our ancestors there on their first visit. On the second visit, Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and Joseph's family became known to Pharaoh. Then Joseph sent and invited his father Jacob and all his relatives to come to him, 75 in all. So Jacob went down to Egypt. He himself there died, as well as our ancestors, and their bodies were brought back to Shechem and laid in the tomb that Abraham had bought for a sum of silver from the son of Haman in Shechem. We thank God for his word. Well, Stephen begins by telling the story of the patriarchs and God's call on their lives. The call to be involved in God's story of love. It was part of Stephen's story as a Jew, And in his life, he became involved in how that story now had Jesus at its centre. And inspired by the Spirit, we read that Stephen himself was joining that long line of people who answered God's call to witness to the truth. And Stephen's story became part of God's story. And of course, part of our story as fellow followers of Jesus today. Recently, at my mum's funeral, as people gathered and afterwards looked at photographs and talked about how they'd met her and what she came to mean to them, I was struck by how once we're born, we become part of so many people's story. And as we journey through life, the network of people we know grows rapidly. I wonder if we see ourselves as part of God's story, and like Stephen, reflect something of what that means to us, to that large network of people who are part of our story. Can people see God's love at work in our lives, as they did in Stephen's? Let's finish with the prayer that binds us all together, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Well, I hope you have a good day and enjoy all the stories that you encounter. I'll see some of you very soon. God bless. Bye-bye.